Hello on the other side of the screen and welcome to the Makwanas Podcast. My name is Nikita Makwana. Like I always say, sitting beside me, it is my one and only husband and co-host, Mompoloki Makwana. So,
yes.
How are you doing?
I'm super excited. It has been a wonderful, beautiful weekend.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for hosting us once again on our number. What number is it? On our sixth.
It is our sixth episode.
Yes.
Oh, man.
It has been a wonderful time.
Yeah.
It has been a beautiful journey. And I am looking forward to what we're going to talk about more today.
Yeah.
To share with you a package for this week. We know the year is running so fast.
Absolutely.
We're in April right now. And things are changing every day. So
God is just so faithful.
Yeah.
So basically it means that our podcast is 6 weeks old.
Yeah.
And we have our first episode did exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Our second episode, third, fourth, fifth. You guys have been so amazing.
Yeah.
And we just want to say thank you for watching our podcast. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you for giving us the feedback, what you've learned in our podcast, what resonated with you as we were talking. We are so grateful. We really are so grateful. And I remember how we used to say, man, we're looking forward to the podcast. Remember in the previous podcast, we talked about how we wanted to have a podcast before we got married. And we're like, no, let us wait. So that we can get married first and do things right. And it's so funny. It is so funny because that clip is the one that led people to our podcast. We've been sharing other clips that we thought you guys would like and clips that are very helpful. And the one that we didn't really expect for you to really be to resonate much with is the one that you actually resonated with. And that really has opened my mind to recognize that, it's not about what I choose to.
Yes.
People actually have their preference, and sometimes you just never know which one of the clips or which one of the conversations, which podcast is gonna, reach many people. And I remember how people have been sending us messages and asking like, oh, so you said that you didn't want to be posted before before you got married. It was so funny, but I didn't think that would be the one thing that most people resonated with. So
I think it comes down to even the messaging in how we take even your product and services. Sometimes we narrow ourselves to what we think maybe could be something that people will like, something people will appreciate, but there are certain preferences all of us do have.
Absolutely.
And I believe that one of the things that really changes everything from the conversations we had previously was the element of personal storytelling. People connect and relate to stories. Information can be as bulk as possible it is, but when it's personalized, people see themselves in that. Remember last week we talked about how people see themselves and they think and they believe that people who talk about their matters, they represent them in this podcast content and online platforms.
Absolutely.
Yes. And
absolutely. I think it's all about being real. It's all about being real. And when you are real, people can tell, no, you are real.
Yeah.
It's the same if you are trying to paint a certain picture. People can see, hey, man, you're working so hard. You're trying so hard to look a certain way, to sound a certain way. There is something that I've learned from one of the women that I really look up to in the space. In my field of expertise. Her name is 𝐀𝐻𝐿. She's lecturer at Nanyang. So she's a thought leader in the field of intercultural intelligence. So she said something in a post a couple of days ago. She posted on LinkedIn. She said communication is not about you. You are talking to someone. I've actually been pondering on that for some time and said, you know what, communication is not about me. Communication is about someone who is listening to me, someone that I'm talking to, because that is actually the person that you are communicating with. And looking at that very clip and how it reached out to people.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, so this is what people resonated with.
Yeah.
So it means that's what communicated to people. And you know, every time, even when we share a podcast, people come back and say, from what you shared, this thing in particular stood out for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to go deeper into that, but then I also really now thinking about something in addition to that, you know, with how people resonate and stuff like that, what they gets them stuck in a particular thing.
Yeah.
I was also now, it will make a shift in from that to talk about something that I feel like most people do struggle with in conjunction and in relation to what that message was coming from in relationships, you know, and sometimes the element of don't post me, don't put me out there, you know, I don't want to be seen or I don't want to take any pictures. Yeah. It comes from an element of what people have experienced before, the element of rejection.
That's very important.
And I think when we look at it, it can be from a place like, okay, we know we are doing things right, we know we are preparing for marriage, but now you have someone here who has not figured out yet when they plan to marry you, who has not said the date yet, okay, maybe next year we can get married. It's easy to now to think, it's hard for someone to think, okay, I don't post you, this means maybe you don't want me to post me because you do. So both parties are coming from an element of rejection. And I feel like it's something that most people are not able to deal with, and now it becomes a shield that people hold, try to avoid the end point of rejection.
Excellent.
Like, I want us to talk about rejection and how people perceive it, what it is, and the lessons that we can get from that. And not only that, and how today, in a world where you are rejected even before you ask, how can you prepare yourself to be in a state where you are able to advance forward in life? The truth of the matter, honey, is that we all have been rejected at some point in life.
Yes.
And we have seen where it comes from, even though it may have been for our good or for our wrong. We all have experienced rejection one way or the other.
At one point in your life, everybody, yes, like you're saying, has experienced rejection.
Yeah.
And I think rejection is deep. It cuts deep.
Yeah.
There are people that you feel should help you.
Yes.
There are people that you feel should be there for you. There are people that you feel, no, they should support me. They should. And you feel like that's how things should be.
Yes.
And you know, that statement alone, it just creates a huge sense of, I don't want to say entitlement per se, but I want to say expectation. You just expect love from your mom. You expect love from your sister. You expect it from your brother, from your co-workers. You just expect that, because in your mind you're like, if we are staying together, it's you who knows me, and if you don't do this thing for me, who do you expect to do something
if you understand me better? If we have been together for a long time, and then it creates a sense of uncommunicated expectations that the other person has to hold up to, a standard that has not been communicated. And now, even when we relate with people, we relate with them from a point of, I wish they understand this.
Yes.
I wish they know I'm banking on them. I wish they know that I'm counting my life with them. I wish they know I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, which is themselves. And let's talk about the issue of opening up, because now we know that part of rejection and part of the pain that we feel in everyday interactions come from this uncommunicated expectations that brings about sad realities in most people today, one way or the other. What is the way forward when it comes to how we perceive and look at rejection?
That is not easy to answer. It's not easy to respond, because one of the things that has been happening, especially when you go into the social media corridors, you have people saying, hey, I cut people off. Family doesn't help. Family doesn't support. Hey, I don't trust your relatives. I trust strangers. I want to believe that comes from bad experience. It comes from basically disappointment. People have been expecting people to help them and they are not helped. And now people are forced to be in a space where they find helpers for themselves. People are going out there and they're building stronger relationships with people who are not related to them by blood. Not because they want to, but because they are forced to. They have experienced it's survival. It's basically survival. And I don't want to say that people are saying that out of I can't say it's a bad thing. I can't also say it's a good thing, but it's just people not having what they were told family should be. They are not getting from families what they were taught. Family is not about what somebody taught us it was about. You know, it is not that. And you recognize that, like they say, blood is thicker than water. We thought that blood is thicker than water. But recently we have seen that water is thicker than the blood, and the water is freezing. The water is cubes, you know. So it just makes it thicker, and you're like, people are looking on the outside. People are now, you know, in what do you call it? In foreign policy, we have the inward looking and the outward looking. So it's basically an outward looking. People are no longer depending on their families
or their
immediate surrounding. I think that that is working for most people, but it is a sad reality.
But the Bible also says that a prophet is not a prophet of his own nation. And being able to admit that, it brings a sense of something. Maybe we can expand much more on that when we talked about rejection. Most of the time when we hear the word rejection, there's another way that they use, commonly is used, redirection.
Redirection, yes.
And I remember, you know, when I was applying for my university, and I was not admitted where I wanted to be admitted, and I was admitted somewhere else. Right? And after being admitted somewhere else, I got to get even more than what I thought I could. The institution that I got admitted to launched my speaking career. The institution that I got to admitted to launch my media passion, launch my writing part, because then I was just writing. And I started writing for the newsletter, for the school newsletter. I started writing as a minister of information, my leadership skills. It launched my journey into being an international student, going to study at Finland. And all of us, we have this story. There are so many things that I can talk about. I can imagine even if my whatever.
What are you going to say? What are you going to say?
I can imagine now, even if my previous relationships, if they worked out, we wouldn't be having this podcast. Redirection is happening every day. Wow, you're scared to talk about it?
No, I'm not. I'm just looking at you.
So redirection has changed so many things. And sometimes when you are going through it, okay, you have a story of redirection. You do have a story of redirection. But let's talk about this point before the redirection. When it's happening, it does not feel like a redirection.
No, it's so painful.
Yes.
You know, it is hard. In Chinese, you say 太难了, 太难了. Nan means difficult. Tai means very. Tai nan, like, basically means it's very difficult. Redirection shouldn't be nice. It has never been nice. Why? Because most of the time, especially I'll talk for myself on this one. When I want to do something, I pray about it. I pray about it, and I believe God, and I believe the scripture says, if you ask for it, God is going to deliver it to you.
Believe that it's already answered.
Believe that it's already answered, and you know how I'll be.
I know.
I'll be believing it, and I'll be talking about it. And as I talk about it, it becomes real, and the expectation goes high.
True.
Now, if it happens that I don't get that, there is pain in my heart. I feel the pain. And I'm in a position where, like, God, didn't you say I should pray and this thing happens? You know? But there is something that happens because I prayed. I know that if it's not coming on my plate, it's because the Lord knows He has something bigger and He has something better for me. And that's what gives me joy. That is what gives me rest. Kurobana in life, if you pray and then something doesn't go like according to how you prayed for it, there is a level of peace that cannot be explained, because you know that you are cooperating with God. Actually, that should be part of how to deal with rejection.
Yes.
Pray for things. If they don't happen, expect something bigger and expect something that is better. Now, let me emphasize on this. Redirection, like I said, is something that is not nice. It's painful because you have expectations, you plan, you literally change your calendar, you rearrange things that if I get this job, I'm gonna do this. If I do this, I'm gonna do this.
Everything starts to build up from there.
Absolutely. If you don't get it, you're going to start noticing that other things are not going to be done, and it affects a whole lot
schedule.
Of it affects your schedule. You feel disorientated. It's just like that. Like you said, you talked about relationships. Sometimes you are with someone and you want the relationship to work, and you want it so bad,
and you put in the work,
you put in the prayer, you put it in the fasting. When it doesn't work, there is pain that comes. It doesn't matter whether you have prayed or you have not prayed. You are going to feel pain. And you're going to feel disappointed. You're going to feel like, man, I've done everything that I should have done.
And it's okay to
feel the pain. But it doesn't mean that should be the end of your life. There's always something ahead of you. There's always something that God has in plan for you. In my journey of serving God, I have experienced situations where I've prayed for things and then I didn't see those things happening. But the journey, my experience has always been, whenever something comes, it comes packaged in a way that God wanted it for me. Amen. And I become more grateful for the job. I become more grateful for my partner. I become more grateful for the house that I've bought. I become more grateful for the opportunities that I've sought. So basically, redirection is all about that. The pain is there. Expect to feel the pain and know that the pain heals with time. God has a way, people. God has a way of wiping your tears. Because sometimes when the way God blesses you, you'll be embarrassed. You'll be embarrassed. You're like, God, why did I even cry in the first place?
Yes.
Why did I not trust you early? Why did I waste my time in crying? Why did I waste my time in venting? Because one of the things we do is to talk to people and blame them for not buying the product that you are selling. You blame them for not buying the service that you are offering.
Blame them for the job they said is over.
You blame them for firing you.
Yes. And you want to stick around. Because by nature, we want to stick around.
We don't want to
By nature,
change.
we don't want to be left out. The fear of missing out, FOMO. Human beings by nature, we have this innate willingness to be connected, to belong to a certain group. Belonging, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And any moment when we feel in a classroom, the university students, any moment we feel at a job, certain people, they have lunch on their own, you are not there. Any moment you feel like people have been given some certain package, you are not given. Even right now, even you are given something for free, and 5 people have the same thing, and you don't have the same thing. You feel like you are not cared for, loved for. We all want to belong. But in the process of belonging, in the process of building those friendships, in the process of building those relationships, in the process of cultivating those professional networks, rejection is part and parcel of it. And when we are open and our mind is aware that this is part of winning, this is part of growth, because there are moments where we really want to belong. Only some few minutes later we realize, hey man, I don't belong here.
You don't.
There are places people say, no, you don't have to come, and you fought all your way. You are even now sharing it as a testimony. I fought for 3 years. Only to get inside and realize, man, I shouldn't be here. Let us be aware that part of rejection is part of our choices. It's part of us choosing what we deserve. And it's just not going to come on a silver platter like, oh no, we don't want to give you this because later on you're going to have that. If only we had that preview of what's going to come if we let this thing go, if we'll allow it to go. Because self-sabotage and, damaging in the inside and losing ourselves comes from trying to now fit in.
Trying so hard.
In the fitting in, we lose identity. In the fitting in, we lose our character. In the fitting in, we lose our spirituality. In the fitting in, we sell our souls because we want to belong to a certain group that does things this way. So, therefore, rejection, not only does it save you for who you are, it also sets you for what you belong for destiny. We all have experienced rejection. But now, let us think of it. Even when we are going through pain, pain is going to be there. Even when we are going through disappointment, it's going to be there. Allow yourself to know that rejection sometimes, and most of the time, is redirection.
Yes.
And now you cultivate a positive attitude to say, I've done all I had to do to make this thing work, but didn't work out. This does not mean I'm a failure. The most problem that we attain because of rejection is the identity that we call ourselves after that thing didn't work out. And the reason why we want it to work out, sometimes we know this thing is not for me. But because we know it's not for us, we also know what will people say if I didn't go through with this thing.
Yeah.
And now the pressure is not even on yourself about the skill set, about the job. The pressure is what your neighbor will say now that you don't have a job. The pressure is not that you don't even have money, even if they fire you, you can even build something.
Yeah.
But the fact that you are fired, you feel like,
how would people look at me? How would I walk the streets?
I can't be rejected at work and be rejected in society.
Yeah, it can really be tough, especially when you started talking about people. It reminds me of what people always say. For example, in our country, if you start selling corn or you start selling something, you pitch your restaurant there. Someone else is gonna selling the very same thing, the exact thing, like you are selling the exact thing that you are doing, and your neighbor do the same thing. If you start a tuck shop, everybody else starts a tuck shop. That's what you have experienced. That's what you have seen, and that's what you have also heard. That is something that copying basically is synonymous with most people.
Yeah.
And the lack of, basically when you keep on copying people, it takes away your creativity.
Yeah.
And when you do things for, like, to please people or just for the fear of what people will say, you are going to end up in places where you shouldn't be, and you are going to settle for less things. There are big things in store for you that God has prepared for you, and just you alone.
Yeah.
And then you are going to find yourself in a position where you work hard, sweat, suffer, and sacrifice things for things that are not meant for you. You're going to work hard, like, so that you can be seen for this job. Like, this job is my...
People now, notice you.
Yeah.
You want to prove your existence.
You want to prove, and you're going to exhaust your energy just to be kept.
Imagine trying to prove that you are loving.
I think it's hard.
Hard, to prove.
Tiring, and every time you force anything, anytime you work hard for anything that you shouldn't be working hard for, you get burnt out.
Yes.
You will suffer. You will age. And with too much suffering, eventually you will die. Maybe not a physical death, but your spirit is going to tire. And you're going to be in a position where you're going to feel used. You are going to feel used. And guess what? You are the one who is using yourself. So I think that we must accept, even when you are not welcome in a certain place, it's okay not to be welcome. Yeah. By nature, we are not designed to be everywhere. Yeah. We are not designed to be loved by everybody. Yeah. And we are not even designed to be there for everybody. Yeah. You as a person, you have your limits, and there is where you should stop. And like we are saying here, the fear of rejection, it puts us in a position of doing things we shouldn't be doing, for people we shouldn't be doing for, and at the time we shouldn't be doing those things. So I think we have to really consider this thing of doing things, especially for people, to satisfy people. What would people say? How do people look at me? Someone once told me that sometimes we are bothering ourselves thinking people are looking at us, but they are really minding their own business, their own family. Sometimes no one is looking at you. You know how sometimes when you're a woman and maybe you are crossing, you are passing, and there are a lot of men gathered there. The sense of like the discomfort. I used to feel that when I was growing up, where you feel like, hey, they're looking at me. And if you're wearing heels, it was worse. And sometimes you can't walk, only to realize later, these people don't yes. So it's like that. People are really busy with their lives, and you should really focus in your in your own life and receive rejection as your own rejection, and understanding that it is also redirection.
Yes.
And if that happens to you, it's okay. You shouldn't, because mostly, like you're saying, we're not worried about us. We're worried about, hey, imagine how would my
relationship be
and I think that one for me has always been, it has always been a personal, it has been a personal thing and a personal experience. I know, like, the heaviness of it, because you know, people, when they know you are seeing someone, they ask you, where is this person? And you don't know the answer. How can I know where someone is who broke up? Sometimes people know, like, okay, you're no longer together, but they will just ask you anyway, so that they get the data from the horse, from the horse mouth. They will ask you these questions. So even sometimes when you're trying to move out or move away from the rejection, or basically something that didn't happen, it could be a job. People still ask you those inconsistencies. Sometimes you wonder, is this from genuine concern, or is it from people trying to find out from you and all that? But I think we must learn to live with that, and to understand that you don't owe anyone an explanation. One of the things that it really helped me, even when I left my previous relationship, when I left my job, is to understand that the life that I'm living is not my own. This life is for God, and when God is pleased with it, I am pleased with it, and everybody else should. If you cannot, and then you should stay somewhere in the back where I can't see you. Because you can't come in front of me and frustrate me about something that didn't work. If I didn't pass at school, I actually have been there. I took a long time to complete my master's degree, and people knew that I was struggling, you know. I had to pay for my school fees, and there was thousands of pullers, and I was paying that for myself, by the way. So, you know, people started being, I can't take our heads, you know, like how people be putting some kind of pressure.
It's like sent by the devil.
It's like they're sent by the devil, and they'll be asking you, and you know that this one is not even out of genuine concern. This is not someone who will say, oh, you know, it's just to ask you to see. And to say, like, why don't you leave this thing, you know, like those kind of things. So the pain of not completing, and the pain of having to answer to people what is going on, it can be so tough.
And it's like when things don't work out, everyone else wants an answer. It's like everyone else wants to know the end story.
What happened?
Even if they have not placed any kind of investment in your journey. Part of rejection, what I've realized is that one of the things is the toll that it takes on you, and the energy that takes off someone, now reducing the level of confidence for the next step. Especially when your last rejection didn't seem like a redirection. Although maybe it's taken some time for things to turn around, and now you have to start another thing before you experience the redirection. And it can be a lot of work. It can be havoc. It can be spiritually heavy. It can be physically heavy, where you feel like, I thought that maybe this was a lesson, but you're not getting the result of the lesson. And you're like, man, this was not a test. It means maybe if I go for another one, I'm going to be damaged. So let's talk about those kind of people who are saying, man, I've been rejected right now. And guess what? I'm trying to start something different. And because of this, what I experienced before, I don't want to start. Before I go to you, for me, I would like to give as an advice on that is never let anything from the past to steal the confidence for the future. Because sometimes the rejection happen so that it takes away the confidence to start. That which is very important. Some of the rejections before had nothing to do with the story or redirection. It had to deal with certain forces wanting to take away your zeal for life, your passion for life, your confidence for life. Because they know if you are rejected in this, you will never have the aspiration to try another more thing. And the thing that you are supposed to try, the thing you are supposed to be in. So I just want you to be aware that the enemy plays those kind of tricks. He will reject you in something that's seemingly good, so that you don't go for something you deserve that is great.
A greater thing.
I want you to be aware of that. Rejection plays a role of redirection all the time. But don't let the past rejection to be the proof for the next elevation. You always reconsider. You always freshen up. The Bible says His mercies renews every day. When you wake up in the morning and say, God, I know your mercies are renewed for me. And whatever that didn't work out yesterday is bygones. Let bygones be bygones. And today, if you are trying something new, go on for it. I always say that as long as you are alive, as long as you are kicking, as long as you can touch yourself like this, you are still in the game. Therefore, allowing previous defeats to set the tone and the confidence for what you can do new right now is the thing that will take away your destiny. Your destiny is bigger than 10 rejections. It's bigger than 100 rejections. It's bigger than 1 million rejection. You just need one yes, and it turns everything around. The things you thought you are planning on your own. If I get this job, in 5 years, I'll get the car and everything. You just need one gig. You just need one yes to get those things in a week. That's how God operates. Now, the devil put you in a state where it feels like, yeah, it's a no, it's a no, it's a no. Where you are supposed to get just one yes to transform the whole of your life.
You don't even go for it.
You now count to the no's and say, it's another no. That's what He wants. Don't let the devil win.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here. I'm still around. I'm there.
So don't let the devil win.
Don't let the devil win. When I'm listening to you and I'm digesting a lot of things, you know, a lot of things. I have seen how fear of being disappointed held me back in many areas. Remember, guys, I was doing this master's degree, supposed to take, how many years was it? 2 years. It takes 2 years, okay? For me, it took almost 4 years to complete it, to finish it. There was a time that I didn't do well in my defense. I failed the defense basically. So at one point I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm actually taking a break now from this thing. And remember you said, no, just go for it and do it. Just go for it and do it. And I did. And when I did, I passed. And I'm thinking, what if I said no? Or
let's pause it there.
Let's pause and...
And even during the day of graduation, because of the back and forth, this
a lot of struggles.
You didn't even want to wake up in the morning.
I didn't want to wake up in the morning.
And I said, you know what? We are bathing and we are getting ready for your graduation. And you're like, okay, which graduation, babe? I was like, honey, you are graduating today.
Going back.
Going back. And you prepared. And the joy that was in your face and your heart when they called your name, it was something that I've never seen before. And immediately that thing erased every thought you had. Oh, will they do this?
I hope.
I hope they. You see, so it's sometimes things move around in circle, so that like a donkey, you get trained to move in circle. Even the time when you have to be still, like God says, stand still and know that I'm God. You are not still at that moment. You are still moving in circle because you feel like maybe things will not work out. I've been working like a donkey. I've been working like an elephant. And I cannot get anything without working. Even people say, no, I will give you money. Even like, the money is supposed to be given for free, you still want to work.
Like a donkey, because you suffering is something that you are trained. Nobody has people are actually trained to struggle. You are trained to suffer. You are trained for a lot of things. And sometimes you just see yourself working hard and you're like, I'm a hard worker. You don't know that you are working hard because you are used to suffering.
And you're trying to avoid the rejection.
And you're trying to avoid the rejection. So going back to this issue, when I was doing my master's degree, I was studying in China. I had to come back to Botswana and now doing my master's from here, long distance, the language. By the way, I did my master's in Chinese. It was quite a struggle, having to pay the school fees. It was a lot. Balancing it with having a family, preparing for the wedding, running a business, working. It was a lot. It was a lot of work. And having the first, and the second no, I was not looking forward for the third one.
Yes.
I was like, you know what? I've done this and I've fought. And that moment where you feel like, man, maybe I should just let this thing go. And also, just recognizing that you have to surround yourself with people who say, go for it. Even when you are rejected, people who say, get up anyway. Go and take a shower anyway. Go and do this anyway. And I was so blessed. My husband did that for me. There were days that, you know, I was not really, I didn't even want to eat. I did not want to drink. I didn't want to do anything because this was a deep thing for me.
You want to sleep?
I didn't want to sleep. And just to understand how deep it was, I come from a family where going to school, hey, you know what I'm saying.
It's a fight.
It's a fight for somebody to just go to school and complete.
And you look at how the enemy attacks you and chipping off bit by bit. Like I always say, people will do this to you. They will just touch you about shubana, and then you're like, oh, the enemy was doing this so that
taking pieces of me.
The enemy can build the confidence that, you know, family, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
And now you end up having that confidence, even when you are passing. People seeing that this girl has a bright future. Where now you have the confidence that, no,
you have
even if I fail,
yes.
it's okay.
Yes.
How many people have been programmed to say it's okay to be rejected?
It's okay. In our families, nothing is gonna come out. And like I was saying, for me, that was personal. It was personal. And I said, no matter how hard this thing is gonna get, I'm going to do it so that my siblings see that this thing can be done. So that my, you know, every kid from my village knows this thing can be done. And I had to go for it. And sometimes being the first person to do that, it can be hard. Because what is hard is not getting it. It's believing that you can. It's just believing that you can. And having to fight through it and to believe, God, that God, I know you, I have you, you are backing me up. You know, sometimes even when you go to like a job setup, you go to school, because we are having maybe an allowance or we are wearing the same uniform, same institution, things are standardized. It looks like everybody's okay. It looks like everybody can get this thing. But it's only you who knows what you are breaking. People are in the mission of breaking curses. And sometimes we waste our lives, our breath, competing with people who already have a solid background.
10 steps ahead.
Who are 10 steps ahead. People who don't necessarily have to send money at home. People who don't necessarily have to help anybody. So being aware that we are not doing these things unto us, but we are doing things for God. We are doing things for the glory of God. And we're not giving up on things, not because we don't want to when it's hard, but because we stick to the word that God said. Things may tarry, take a bit long, but the blessing is coming my way. I actually released a song and says, this is my time. And that song is a personal song. And I was writing it as a testimony to say, I have seen the Lord. I have seen his help. I've seen the Lord helping me. I've seen myself wanting to give up in a lot of things. But the Lord said, go for it. I got you. I got you. I'm with you till the end of the time. You will never know shame. You will never be embarrassed. You will never be in a position when people ask you, where is your God? When people ask you, where is your God? Point at yourself. That is where the song was coming from. I will never know shame, because I've recognized that no matter how many rejections I get, how many no's I get, God always comes for me. And when it comes to show off. And that should be your belief. Maybe you have not seen that happening in anybody recently, but this actually is a testimony that I've just shared with you. Testimonies that we have just shared with you, for you to know that things are possible. Rejection is going to be there, but God has something that is bigger. God has something that is better. We actually didn't share all the testimonies, but basically we need to be aware that God is always looking forward. He's searching for someone to assist. The devil is always, he says that is what is
come to steal, destroy, kill. He's always looking for someone to
devour. Yes, he's looking for someone to devour. And the scripture also says the Lord's eyes are moving around, seeking for someone to help. Amen. So as you feel like, oh, it's like bad things are chasing me, the goodness of the Lord is chasing you. God is looking for someone to help. And as long as you are there, God will always help you. It doesn't matter how many people say no. You only need 1 year, not many. If you are looking for a job, you don't need everybody to accept your application. You just need one yes, and the right job, and then you are said you don't need to marry everybody. You just need to ask one girl, can I marry you? And then she says yes, and then you are set, you are married. It doesn't have to be 2, it doesn't have to be 8.
Amen.
You don't need everybody, necessarily need everybody to propose to you. You just need one man to say, would you be my, and the right person, they come, and then that's it. And sometimes after the blessings come, it's like you never cried.
Amen.
You never got disappointed. You never been in a position of lack.
The Egyptians you've seen no more.
You see no more.
Rejection is part of life.
Yeah.
And rejection is important for our redirection. And every day we are being elevated, depending on our ability to take one defeat after the other without losing enthusiasm and keep going forward and believing that God is paving ways for us. That's all we have for you.
Before we go,
yes,
there is a question that I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it, but it's just there in my mind. I'll find a way.
Yeah.
I believe that people are paying for things they don't know. People are suffering for things they don't know because they are working with people who have been rejected before. They are working with people who have been hurt before, and they are paying for the debts they don't owe. They are paying for other people's mistakes. There is someone today, as we are speaking, who is putting their health, their gut. They're like, nah, no one can play on top of my head, because people have played on top of their head and they don't want repetition. So even when you make a genuine mistake, they are ready to attack and to stand for themselves. There are people right now who have been abused by their employers, their previous employers. They just found a new employer, and that person, they have their best interest at heart. But this person is right now, as you speak, they are putting their guard on. They're like, no one is gonna mess up with me. Yes. There is someone out there who is no longer receiving love because they have been disappointed over and over, and there's someone who is willing to love them, who is willing to go an extra mile for them.
Yes.
But they're making it hard for someone to love them. They're making it hard for someone to basically to be there for them because of the hurt that they have accumulated over time.
And now they're protecting themselves.
Even against nothing. I just want you to say 2 or 3 things to such people out there.
Yes. The late T.B. Joshua said, the same doors you use to keep evil out is the same doors that can keep goodness out. And the second part is from me personally, Mompoloki Makwana. I said, withholding is dying. Giving is living. The message of the Lord renews every day. Be refreshed every day. In fact, our week last week was a week of refreshment.
Yes.
And we have so many testimonies to share from that. Be refreshed every day. You know, even being refreshed from the goodness, because sometimes people do good and you are stuck on that. There are more people who want to come with great and are not buying you. They are not trying to solicit your stuff. Be refreshed every day. Allow God to move you to the place you belong, even in the point where you don't have control. Withholding is dying. Trying to control how much they should give you. Trying to control, trying to do this. You can't be everywhere all the time. We have a God who is everywhere all the time. Even as we are speaking right now, He's taking care of our issues and matters. So we must be mindful right now that our life, we are living it under the extension of God's protection and under the extension of God's grace. Therefore, as we remove the doors, we allow the trust not to be on ourselves, on how to guard ourselves. Our houses are not guarded by the policemen or Makatani and stuff like that. They're guarded by God, who enables all things. So allow your heart to remove all those cement you've been plastering. I will never trust again. I will never do that. It's God who gives us the grace to trust, who gives us the grace to succeed. Promotion comes from the Lord. As you submit your heart, spirit, and your being to God, He will refresh you and enable you to move forward. Even in the face of people who wanted to do you harm, you shall be promoted. Amen. Even in the places where people say, you're a rejecter, you're not a rejecter, they will be surprised that they have agreed to you. So God is always working wonders. Don't stop believing Him. Don't stop going forward. Don't stop believing. Amen. keep believing every day. It's a new day and His mercies are renewed.
Wow. So you have to allow God to be the one who takes care of things in your life.
And revenge on your behalf.
And revenge, on your behalf. Be expectant of good. In as much as you have experienced the pain, there are days that somebody came for you. And every time you are about to do something, don't reference the bad, that I've seen things not working. Remember when things worked out where you least expected it, and vocalize those positive things.
Proclaim faith.
Proclaim faith.
Not
Proclaim
fear.
that things are going to work out for me regardless.
Yes.
And as you continue to proclaim that, you will see God coming for you, and not just coming, but coming big and coming to show off through your life, turning your hands into helping hands.
Yes.
You'll be in a position of assisting, and in as much as you have experienced the rejection, like, I've had like maybe a bad supervisor, I've had bad childhood, remember that you are a channel of light yourself.
Yes.
So basically, that is that from the Makwanas podcast. I didn't expect us to go this route.
Yes.
I never expect us to go the route that we always take.
Yeah.
Let me just take an opportunity to thank you, because you talked about deeper things.
Yes.
That resonated with me when you brought the issue of rejection, and I was able to talk about my own experiences that I didn't really expect I would talk about them. But I'm so grateful that I did, and thank you just for bringing this up and for having this amazing session that we just had, and for speaking to people who are listening to the Makwanas podcast. We really appreciate you. Remember to subscribe, to like, and to share with your friends. We love you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing with us your experiences, and for continuing to believe God to enable you to be able to share your story. That is really impactful. But remember always, withholding is dying. Living is about giving. Thank you so much.
Have yourself a blast. It's a bye for now.